Hello everyone, Steve here from RSN. Welcome to our latest instalment of our Coffee Conversation segment. This morning I'm privileged to be joined by Giam Swiegers. Giam, of course, is the former CEO of Aurecon and Deloitte Australia and currently Non-Executive Director of Aurecon. So Giam, welcome. Really good to see you again. It's been quite some time.
Thank you for the invitation, Steve, and it is good to see you again, even if it's on video.
Now, as you know, this is all about a casual chat over a coffee. Something in the past we've done in a face-to-face sense, but probably not in a virtual sense. But in these days, it's becoming more normal that we do things in a virtual sense. So, can I ask you what you have with you this morning? What's your coffee or drink of choice?
I love a double espresso, so this is my second double espresso for the morning.
Oh, very good. And I like to kickstart the day with a latte, a double shot latte. So not dissimilar to yourself, although it is only my first. So Giam, thanks again. A real pleasure to have you with me this morning. Perhaps before we kick off into the conversation more generally, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of who is Giam Swiegers.
Well, I joined Deloitte out of university. 37 years at Deloitte, 12 years as the CEO in Australia. I retired from Deloitte, as you well know, and I was approached by Aurecon, a global engineering firm, to become their global CEO, which I did for 4 years. I retired from there a year and a half ago. I was invited to go back onto their board 6 months after my retirement started. And all I'm doing right now is I'm doing that. I'm on the Australian Design Council and helping quite a few businesses that needs a bit of consulting advice. But generally, I'm just enjoying retirement.
Fantastic, very good to hear, and well done with that one. And look, it'd be really interesting just to perhaps get a little bit more background about perhaps a couple of those current roles, particularly around your involvement with the Australian Design Council. If you could give us a little bit more background around there, perhaps.
The Australian Design Council has been around for a long time, but it's just been relaunched. And it's 9 of us that have been asked to get together to have a look at the manufacturing in Australia. I think COVID has showed us all that you cannot afford to have a country that doesn't do any manufacturing whatsoever or do very little. So there's a few very interesting people on the committee. Andrew Leveris, that was the Dow Chemical Global CEO and Chairman, Catherine Livingston, David Thodey, myself, the former CEO of Austrade, and the editor from Vogue magazine. So there's a number of people that are getting together and saying, how do we use design? Doing very good design, rethinking designer products, but also looking at the design of policy, design of business models, and then using design thinking to get past the very obvious problems that we have with lack of manufacturing in this country.
No, that's fascinating, Giam, and really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that group as we go forward. I'm really keen to get your thoughts on a couple of things. You know, no one could have guessed, I think, a few short months ago that we'd be living in the middle of a global pandemic, and the changes that's bringing to society generally, to our individual lives, to our business lives. I'm keen to explore, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps some of the challenges that you've experienced or that you've become aware of in your roles, whether that be in the context of touching on or expanding a little further on what you were saying around the manufacturing sector in Australia. The professional services environment obviously is one that's near and dear to my heart, because that's where I am right at the moment, and that's where you've spent much of your career as well. So would you mind sharing a little about some of the challenges that you've seen and that you've confronted over the last few months as well?
I think I'd like to start with the good news side of it, Steve. And I think so many people are talking about the fact that most organizations have discovered that they can take decisions very quickly and they can change rapidly. The way that companies have gone to working from home, the way that they started using technology is incredibly impressive. The big question is, will organizations now learn from it and stay that agile as they go forward? Or are we going to fall back into the traps of, no, it's not how we do things over here? Mm-hmm. It's a very big opportunity for us. But with it, I have some concerns. I think work from home worked very well during the first lockdown, and people managed to do what they had to do, and productivity in a lot of industries stayed remarkably high. I have questions about how that's going to be impacted going forward. I have a simple view on leadership, and that is that good leaders take organizations where they ought to go, not where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And that has always served me well, and I've seen everybody that is comfortable with that definition of leadership do well. I have been talking to several organizations recently that has asked me for some advice. And what I'm noticing is that there's a reluctance now to take people where they ought to go. People are getting caught in the headlines, and the comment that I hear quite often is everything is going to change. The world will never be the same again. And I'm starting to realize that that's actually code for saying, let's get a new set of plans and a new set of KPIs, because I did nothing about mine over COVID. And by saying everything's going to change, it means that they're no longer valid. I've been helping one firm design a strategy day, and it started off with the everything has changed, we've got to throw out the business plan. And after careful analysis and debate, 80–90% of what was in the business plan is still valid. Yes, there are things that are going to change, but there's going to be a big difference between the organizations that are well led in 2021 and those that are not well led. Now, that's always the case, but I think 2021 is going to have a big emphasis. And my other prediction is that we are going to see the biggest change of leaders, as there's a clear difference between the leaders that did well in this period and really built strong organizations, and those that were just lucky that it came through or completely missed the lack of productivity in their organizations. I also had a very interesting debate last week on how much space do you need, because that's another topic that's on everybody's mind. And the researcher that has been looking at this had made an interesting comment that said, if you look at it through a productivity lens, you probably don't need that much space. But if you look at it through a creativity lens, which is really the competitive advantage that businesses have, you're probably going to need more space, because the world is changing. Companies have seen that they can change. And if you think you can be creative working from home and with people on Zoom, I think that's a big risk. That really is a big risk. And therefore, I think we will see the leaders that are capable of leading the teams back to their creativity, back to knowing that humans need to be around each other to make a success.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that, Giam, because so often we're hearing, we're living in the Zoom world now. We don't need to travel anymore. The need for face-to-face interaction is much reduced, and I share your thoughts. I think fundamentally, human beings, we're social creatures, and we're at our best when we're with other people. Do you see that? I just wouldn't mind exploring a little bit more, perhaps, just around the potential redesign of what the workplace could look like. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you see it as more, more sort of collaboration type zones, and you have perhaps a hybrid model where people are kind of working not necessarily from home, but out of the office, perhaps on a client side as well as in the office? Is that something that you see will change for the better as well?
Well, Steve, you and I have both grown up in professional services. And by definition, we've always worked in client offices. So remote working is not that new. And at Deloitte, we started some time ago. I've been out of Deloitte for 6.5 years now, with building more and more collaboration spaces. At Aurecon, we started to realize how important these spaces are. So offices have been redesigned in 2019 already. And I don't think the office in 2021 is going to look that different to the office in 2019, because we are still solving similar problems, and they are still very complex. And they are best done putting multidisciplinary people together and using very clever techniques to see what you can do with the issues that are facing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Giam,
by the way, if you look at it, office space through productivity, you can put a lot of people working in open plan offices in uncomfortable circumstances. You need a lot more space for creative work, where people can move around, where you've got places where you can have a debate. You don't have the silent talk.
mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be potentially a different outcome to what people expect.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Look, really appreciate your time, Giam, and your thoughts on those things. Some very insightful comments, and certainly I think that resonates with me a lot of what you said, because I have experienced some of that stuff in the past as well, of course. But look, thank you again for your time, Giam. I know you're a busy man, not as busy perhaps as once you were, but that's very good. Enjoying a well-deserved retirement. Yeah, I really appreciate your time this morning, having a chat to us. Hopefully, if out there watching us, you heard some of those great insights from Giam. If you want to learn more, you can always come back to us in the usual way. But Giam, thank you once again. Great to see you again, albeit via Zoom. Be good to catch up in person one day when our borders are finally open again. Look forward to that day.
And thanks, Stephen. Hopefully this is useful.
Indeed. Thanks again, Giam. Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye-bye.
care.